thank you, Oshin, and thank you all for joining us today. You need all very long arms to reach out for the water there, so let's hope we don't get too thirsty. Okay, well, thanks for joining us for this session, and thank you, Jose Manuel, for joining me as well. So you are, as Oshin said there, from Moeve, which is still, I believe, Spain's second largest energy company. You've been rapidly transforming into a champion of the energy transition. Just briefly, give us some of the highlights.
Well, I think that
you were right, but
Oshin, I think your mic is still live.
thank you very much for that.
well, energy transition means transition, so it's a long way, but we have.
All right, tag team.
Sorry, I'm just gonna, guys. Oshin's mic is still live. Can we switch it off? Thank you. Okay. Siga.
Okay, so we are on the path right now. We begin our new strategy that is called Positive Motion 3 years ago. But in these 3 years, we have made big movements. We invest in the first or the biggest biofuels plant in southern Europe, in Huelva, close to the Portuguese border, 500,000 tons of biofuels that will start up at the beginning of next year. And 2 months ago, we approved what is the biggest investment in hydrogen also in southern Europe, a 300 megawatts plant that will be in operation in 2029. At the same time, we are transforming our service station, investing in high-speed chargers for electric vehicles. So it's a transition, as I said. Still, there is an important part of our business that is, let's say, conventional, carbon-based. But it will be needed for the society in the following 10, 20 years. So we have to path the movements on the proper way.
Okay, so I suppose the big question is why? Why are you doing this? Is it for the money? Is it for energy security? Is it because you care deeply about the planet? Is it all of those things? Is it none of those things? Why are you doing it?
I think it's everything at the end. I think that the path is clear. I think we are moving as a society to let's say, address this carbonized energy supply, and we have some, let's say, advantages compared to the rest of the companies in our sector. Size, we are a mid-sized company, so to transform is easier than big corporations. The weight of the exploration and production in our company was comparatively low with the majors. As a matter of fact, we sold 80% of our oil exploration and production fields in the last 2 years. So from that point of view, it was easier to transform the company from, let's say, a pure oil and gas company to a champion on the new energies. Biofuels is also a big investment for us, and it's easier also for us to have a big hub in southern Europe. We take advantage of that market too.
Right, and I think one of your projects is you're building Europe's largest green hydrogen project in Andalusia. Mm-hmm. Hydrogen, though, has struggled to scale elsewhere in Europe. So what makes this project different, and which sectors do you see as the kind of low-hanging fruit for hydrogen adoption in Spain and the European Union?
I think that the first mover has to be oil companies, because we use hydrogen right now. The only difference is that we produce based on natural gas, on steam reformers. So we have the consumption. So to decarbonize is one of the easiest way. Also, is the building block for the new investment, because hydrogen is not the end, it's the beginning of a transformation. From hydrogen, we will jump to ammonia, we will jump to methanol, we will jump to e-fuels. As a matter of fact, Moeve is one of the biggest suppliers of bunker of fuel for maritime companies. So to move to ammonia, that is the future for that industry, is the right movement. We are located, our facilities are located one of them in the Strait of Gibraltar. It's one of the 4 places that supply more bunker to the maritime industry. So it's okay, moving from oil to the new energies is a big change, especially from a CapEx point of view. But at the end, the clients are going to be the same. So it's an easier way because the commercial part is there, already there.
And for those in the audience who aren't familiar with the maritime world, bunker is the fuel that goes into ships, and it's one of the dirtiest fuels in all kind of transportation, or traditionally has been in the world. So probably a lot of scope to make that greener. Now, you did mention biofuel, and I think you're targeting 2.5 million tons, is it, a year of biofuel capacity by 2030?
The new plan is 500,000 tons. We already produce another 500,000 tons in our all facilities because, as I said, this is a transition.
Yeah.
Our refineries used to consume 100% product that come from crude oil. But now we put residues, we put vegetable oil, so some of the old part of the company is already transformed into the new energies,
And you've mentioned shipping and fuel for shipping. Of course, you also deal with fuel for aviation. I think it's sustainable aviation fuel, or SAF. I mean, it's still pretty expensive, even though airlines are kind of under pressure to decarbonize as well. How do you see the price of sustainable aviation fuel versus the traditional aviation fuel? When do you see those two kind of converging? And what policies do you need, whether it's from the Spanish government or from the European Union, to make that happen?
Yeah, some kinds of this transformation is based on regulation. It is clear. Part is regulation. There is a mandate to put a certain quantity of SAF on the kerosene that the airplane use. But the quantity from now to 2050 is increasing progressively. The impact on the total cost of a ticket is almost negligible, at least in these first 5-10 years. At the end, it will be higher, but also there is a learning curve of the industry to try to reduce the price. I think that, frankly speaking, many companies that work with us, some clients in that field, even try to buy above the mandate, just because their clients require that they like to fly in a plane that is fully decarbonized. So I think the sustainable aviation fuel do not have a real price problem. Other part of the energy transition will have it, but SAF by far no.
So, I mean, one of my questions was going to be about how, Moeve is moving along this energy transition, and other companies, notably BP, which kind of made a big thing when ESG was kind of in fashion to kind of transition to, beyond petroleum, as they put it, has now kind of reverted back. But I think you've already said that, it helps by not being, a super major. You've got much more scope. It's much easier to turn around a small ship than it is a super tanker, for want of a better maritime analogy. But you are still in the fossil fuel business. You've allocated, I think, more than half of your 2025 investment was, towards the energy transition. How do you balance the economics of investing for the kind of fuel of the future, while at the same time, investing in your legacy fossil fuel businesses and ensuring that both are profitable and, creating a return for your investors?
Well, most of the new investment in terms of new units is for energy transition, but we have a legacy, we have refineries, we have chemical plants that we have to be, let's say, focused on the asset integrity of those assets. I think that the worst thing that an oil, because we are still an oil company, can have is a big accident. You remember BP, for instance. I think that we had to be focused on the people. We had to be focused on our people that operate the plant. We had to be focused on the people that live close to our operation. So for that reason, 50% of the investment are in the legacy, because we had to keep units that are 50, 60 years old in perfect shape in order to avoid any kind of problem for the people and for the society.
Right, and of course there are concerns about environmental issues right now in the Persian Gulf, what with war and the ceasefire kind of about to happen, not happening, and who knows where we're going there. You could, of course, look at what's happening in the Middle East and say, look, that argues even more strongly for a move towards renewables, because that way you don't need to rely on oil and gas from volatile areas. But of course, the counter-argument is, no, you do still need it. You just need to invest in Latin America or other parts of the world that are less, let's say, geopolitically volatile. So how does that kind of impact your way of thinking?
Well, I think that since 2-3 years ago, after the Ukrainian war, I think the focus was decarbonization. That's fine. Now, security of supply is also important. And after the Strait of Hormuz thing is even more important. I think that for renewables, I think it's, let's say, a good thing because at the end, most of the energy transition is electrification for, let's say, light vehicles, houses, things like that, and we will see that path. Really, hydrogen and green molecules, meaning green molecules, those ones that are produced by renewable electricity, is more for heavy industry. So I think that that path, as I said, will continue and probably at a higher speed.
Okay. And I mean, some countries, of course, are moving towards net zero faster and more successfully than others. In the UK, which, forgive me for using that as an example again, there's a lot of, electricity is extremely high, much higher than it is in many other comparable countries. And some people blame, the drive towards net zero as one of the reasons for that. Renewables, of course, do bring other advantages, for example, reindustrialization.
Yes.
I mean, is it really a panacea in that sense that not only is it going to help, improve, reduce carbon emissions, it's going to improve the environment, improve air quality, boost energy security, but also help with the reindustrialization in certain places?
Well, I think that the situation of every country is different. I think that for the very first time, we have as a country, as Spain, a real advantage on that. I think that we are always been a country that has to import a lot of energy. Right now, we have a real advantage in order to reindustrialize the country because I think that the price of solar, and we have a combination of solar and wind that is unique, and the price of electricity is many hours. You will notice that it's zero many hours a day. The challenge is to invest properly in the grid. For instance, we have that 300 megawatts plan in Huelva. The original project was 400 megawatts, and we don't have enough electrical supply to jump to 400 megawatts. The target for us was 2 gigawatts by 2030. And of course, probably it was a bold movement because a lot of investment and it's difficult to handle for the size of our company. But even if we were in the position to try to do it, there is no connection. So I think that it's important to invest in the grid. That's important to reindustrialize the country, because at the end, okay, there are a lot of information regarding pipelines of hydrogen going to the north. That's a huge investment and will take 10, 15 years, but the energy is already here, and it's just a question of investing in the grid.
Right, but isn't that the problem, that there's a danger that you go too fast and the transmission systems are not up to snuff? I think there have already been warnings from the grid operator here in Spain about the potential for further blackouts. I mean, it's all well and good to say, great, we're squeezing more thanks to technology out of photovoltaic cells and solar panels. You're getting more out of other, wind and other kind of renewables. But obviously, if the grid system isn't up to scratch, then that's going to be a problem.
No, but frankly speaking, I think that the problem was not a problem that can be relatively easily solved. The technology is there. The only thing is that you have to put the proper regulation to try to avoid those kind of things. You can have 80 or 90% renewables, but you need to have some properties of the grid in the proper way, and they know how to do it. The problem is that you try to increase a lot before doing the right investment, but the investment to put the grid in a proper position to handle 80, 90% of renewables is not a big investment.
Right, and that just needs to be done, government, it needs, okay. I suppose, traditionally, I've been around long enough to know that, as countries get richer, they consume more energy. Yes, their emissions go up as well, but the trend, generally speaking, for the world is to consume more energy. Of course, AI has now kind of supercharged that, and I think there's one fun statistic I found when I was doing my research. More than half of the growth in demand between now and 2030, that's like just over, 4 years' time, expected to be driven by new data centers providing, compute to the AI industry. If we just start with one element of that for now, are we on the brink now of a golden age for energy companies because there's just so much demand for companies like yourselves to basically provide more energy? Is this now a golden age that we are on the brink of?
Well, I think that there is business for a lot of people, more than on the electrical sector, for sure. What is clear, even with efficiency, try to decarbonize, try to reduce energy consumption, the trend is clear. We are going to increase. That's the reason, because the oil is going to last, and even the coal for a long time, because probably will be a decline on oil consumption, but the increase in consumption will be covered by electricity mainly and by green molecules. So in a situation like this, with new technologies that not are fully proven, I think that it's important to be, let's say, aggressive or courageous, trying to be the first, but you have to do it also cautiously, because you have to remember, for instance, renewables right now are fully profitable, but at the beginning there were a lot of investment that failed because the technology was not, let's say, mature enough. I think we are doing an interesting mixture. I think, for instance, biofuels is proven technology. There is no much difference between the technology that you use for SAF than the technology that you use at a refinery. Hydrogen, of course, needs a learning curve, but someone has to begin. And I think that an oil company that have that, let's say, intention to move is the right company to do it.
I'm curious to know how you, without a crystal ball, how you balance kind of going all in, as so many of these big tech companies seem to be, by spending eye-watering amounts on the technology, and yet at the same time avoid the risk of what we saw, whether it was with the railroads back in the day or whether it was during the dot-com boom, when there was vast amounts invested in fiber optic cables, only for the industry to collapse as well. Obviously, in the long term, these were both good things, but in the short term and for particular companies, wasn't such a good thing. So how do you kind of make sure that you're reaping as many of the benefits as possible, but at the same time running as few risks as possible of kind of coming a cropper because you just simply spend too much and ultimately the demand isn't there?
Well, there are two things. First of all, as I said, we are consumers of this product. So, of course, we try to go ahead and try to jump to the green molecules and try to get products that are more profitable, but we already have the consumption. So that's a good thing. Second, fortunately, it's the only way. There is a help from the government in order to provide a subvention to try to compensate the lower profitability that we have. And second, in this industry and these new technologies, partnership is important. I think that we are the first one that are moving on this, and the relationship that we have with technology providers, but also with the rest of the companies that are investing, is more a partnership relationship than, let's say, a competition. For instance, we are going, as I said, to start up those 300 megawatts by 2029. There are going to be big investment and startups in Sweden and in Holland and in France 1 or 2 years ago, and the relationship with those companies is completely open because they know that we will help them, and they know that they will need us in order to have, let's say, an industry that is just in the beginning and need a lot of effort from everybody.
So we're talking kind of like joint investments in projects between technology companies and energy companies. We're talking about, perhaps with the government involved as well. Are we talking about, as we've seen in the States, for example, big tech companies buying nuclear power stations or, nuclear fusion companies or what have you to try to make sure that they're in control of the amount of energy that they need?
Well, frankly speaking, I think that everybody has to be focused on their core and their knowledge. I think the relation is close, free in terms of share experiences, but the technology provider is the technology provider and the operator is the operator. Of course, in other areas that are in a, let's say, more immature position, probably, and we do with a lot of startups to try to join develop is a good thing. But when we talk about hydrogen, we are talking about investment on 1 to 2 billion. So we are talking about big corporations, and that is more difficult to handle.
Right. And I mean, you mentioned startups. Moreover, you are collaborating with and investing in energy-related startups. Give us a couple of examples of the kind of startups, and we had a couple of them on stage, I think, just before. Give us a couple of examples of the ones that you're investing in and the problems that they are seeking to solve or that you're asking them to solve.
Well, as I said, if we are focused on biofuels and hydrogen, those things are also in biogas that, as a matter of fact, is a good challenge for Spain because we are far away of the rest of European countries. I think we have also an opportunity. But for instance, if two come to my mind, we are investing with a startup in England for hydrogen storage, MOFs. That's important because one of the problems of hydrogen is not production, also is a problem, but how do you handle the storage of hydrogen until you don't have a grid also to transport the hydrogen. So there are many options. They are proven technologies, but they are really expensive. That option that we are working with this company, I think is a good option. Another in biofuels and in biogas, one of the limitations of biofuels is raw material. The garbage has become
And sorry, when
like
you say
gold.
raw material, you mean?
Vegetable oils, biomass, but also residues.
Right.
We're investing in a company that uses some type of fly to digest urban residues and convert it in a raw material for a biofuels plant. It's also in the very beginning, but it's very promising, also for biogas production. So I think there are two good examples.
And obviously, as a big, I know you say you're mid-sized, but compared with startups, you're still a big company.
Yeah.
How do startups, aside from obviously money, how do they benefit from your expertise, or the expertise of a company which is perhaps more experienced, maybe a little bit more conservative? And also, how do you benefit from maybe the more kind of blue sky thinking, more risk-taking culture that might exist in some of these startups that you partner with?
Well, that depends also the type of and the size of the startup, because some of them just need financial support to begin. In some of them we pay for proof of concept, and if the proof of concept works properly, we can even invest in the company or try to develop a project. And depending on the company, depending on the startup, well, they can ask for financial, they can ask for help on governance, because many times these companies are very small and they need some kind of offer from our side. And what they provide to us, well, a view of the market, because we cannot be in every single field, and also, let's say, a quick approach in order to solve problems, because big corporations, you can imagine, is risk avoidance by definition. They are completely the other way around. So, of course, there are many startups, some fail, some develop, but we try to find the right ones in order to help us in the energy transition.
And you expect, one or two of these that you're invested in or that you work with to kind of go on to much bigger and better
well,
things?
that will depend. I think that I think it's not in our interest and in their interest that we be there for many years. I think that if the proof of concept is good, we can become an investor to try to fully develop, or we can become a client. It's not as in the case of the two companies that I mentioned, one is already merging with another big corporation, and probably we will become a client and we will sell our participation. And in the other, will depend. But I think that in general, we stay 4, 5, 6 years, depending on the startup. And if they, let's say, fly, it's better to let them fly alone.
Okay, well, we're not going to keep the audience for 5 or 6 years because we are actually out of time. Otherwise, I'm sure we would have done. So do please join me in thanking José Manuel Martínez Sánchez, EVP of Technology Projects and Services at Moeve. Thank you so much for a really interesting conversation.